My name is Alexandra Hayes. I'm 32 years old, and the night my parents threatened to raise my rent unless I agree to become my sister's unpaid nanny, something inside me cracked in a way I still don't fully know how to explain. It wasn't the kind of crack that happens suddenly, like a plate shattering on a kitchen floor. It was quiet, controlled, almost polite, like a woman finally whispering enough after years of pretending nothing hurt. It started in the middle of my parents' living room, where the lamp beside the old beige couch flickered as if even the electricity felt uncomfortable being there. I remember standing there with my backpack still slung over one shoulder, sweat sticking to my hairline from the long bus ride, while my mother delivered the threat like she was announcing a weather report. "Alexandra," she said, arms folded tight across her chest, "your rent will be increasing by $500, unless—" She paused, and my sister, Amelia, shifted smugly beside her. "Unless," Mom continued, "you step up and help your sister by watching the kids after school. Every day. No excuses." I blinked once, twice, trying to understand what I had done wrong, what invisible rule I had broken. "Wait, Mom, what? Why me? Why now?" I asked. Dad didn't meet my eyes. Amelia smiled the kind of smile a cat gives when the mouse finally stops running. "It's simple," she said, brushing her perfectly straight hair behind her ear. "You live here for cheap. The least you can do is contribute." "Cheap?" I whispered, heat rising to my cheeks. "I pay rent. I pay utilities. I buy my own groceries. Mom waved her hand like she was swatting away a fly. "Alexandra, your sister has responsibilities, a husband working long hours, 2 kids, a mortgage. You don't have those things. It only makes sense." And then she said the sentence that would replay in my head for weeks like a haunting echo. "Honestly, Alex, you're not doing much with your life anyway." Those words hit me harder than the rent threat. I felt something fracture, a small but sharp emotional snap right under my ribs. It was the disrespect, the dismissal, the certainty in her voice that I was the family's easiest piece to rearrange, the one person they never feared losing. "So?" Amelia asked, tapping her phone with a smirk. "Are you agreeing or not?" I didn't realize tears were pooling until my vision blurred. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to speak without sounding broken. "If I say no, you're really raising my rent?" Dad finally looked up. His silence answered me before Mom could. That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment I realized my family didn't see me, only what they could get from me. And before I could stop myself, I whispered, "Wow." My voice cracked. "This is who you actually are." Amelia scoffed. Mom exhaled like I was being dramatic. Dad rubbed his forehead, and I felt my chest tighten with something between anger and heartbreak. That was the moment this story truly began. Before I continue, if you're new to the channel, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay to the end because this one is personal. Now let me take you back, because this didn't start that night. No. This had roots that reached deep into my childhood, long before bills and rent and unsolicited responsibilities. Growing up, I was the easy child. Not the favorite, not the rebel, not the prodigy. Just easy. If my parents needed someone to compromise, it was me. If they needed someone to understand, it was me. If my sister needed something, my toys, my clothes, my side of the room, it was me who had to give it up. Amelia was the golden child, the one with shiny blonde curls, the one the teachers praised, the one the relatives gushed over. I was the responsible one, the helper, the quiet one, the one everyone assumed would be fine no matter how much was taken from her. I used to think that was a compliment. I was wrong. When Amelia got into trouble at school, I was the one who had to explain why she lashed out. When she stole a necklace from a store at 14, I was forced to swear it was mine and that she only borrowed it. When she crashed Mom's car at 17, somehow I was blamed for not teaching her better choices. It was ridiculous, unfair, and painful, but as a kid, I accepted it because I wanted to be good. I wanted to be loved. But the truth I would later learn is that some families love convenience more than they love their children, and mine definitely did. Fast forward to adulthood. Amelia married early, had kids early, and my parents worshipped her for it. Suddenly, her life choices became proof she was mature, responsible, and family-oriented. Meanwhile, I was treated like a drifting leaf, even though I worked full-time, paid my own way, and never asked them for anything except the chance to catch my breath after a difficult breakup and move back home temporarily. Temporarily turned into a year, not because I was lazy, but because life in our city was expensive and I was climbing my way out of debt. My parents offered the room at a fair price, and I thought, maybe this was their way of supporting me, like they always supported Amelia. I was wrong about that too. Over those months, small things started happening. Requests disguised as favors. Responsibilities disguised as, well, you're here anyway. Picking up Amelia's kids just this once. Helping with chores because Amelia is overwhelmed. Babysitting during their date nights. Covering utility bills because you use the house too. Death by 1,000 tiny obligations. And I didn't complain. Not once. That was my mistake. So when the night of the rent threat came, I shouldn't have been surprised, but I still was. Back in that living room, everything seemed too bright and too loud. The ticking clock, the hum of the refrigerator, Amelia scrolling on her phone like my emotional meltdown was background noise. "You're seriously crying?" she said. "It's not that big of a deal." Those words, not that big of a deal, they echoed through every memory I had of being overshadowed, overlooked, undervalued. Mom stepped forward, voice firm. "Alexandra, your sister needs you, and family steps up. If you refuse, then yes, the rent increases. It's your choice." My throat tightened so hard I could barely breathe. I felt like I was drowning in a familiar ocean, a place where no one cared if I sank. "Can I at least think about it?" I whispered. "No," Amelia snapped instantly. "We need an answer now. I have plans next week, and I need to know if I can count on you." Count on me? Like I was some unpaid employee they were negotiating with. I stared at her, suddenly noticing something I had never allowed myself to see before, the entitlement in her eyes, the belief that she deserved my time more than I did. Then I looked at my parents and saw something even more heartbreaking, the ease with which they were willing to threaten me, all because Amelia wanted something. Dad coughed awkwardly and muttered, "It's only fair, Alex." Fair. They used the word fair. That was when a memory hit me, one so sharp it felt like a slap. I was 9 years old, standing in the kitchen, crying because Amelia ate the last of my birthday cake. Mom said, "Alex, it's just cake. Be the bigger person." And now, 23 years later, they were still demanding the same thing. Be the bigger person. Be the understanding one. Be the giver. Be the one who sacrifices. "So," Amelia asked again, "what's your answer?" My heart pounded so loud I heard it in my ears. I was exhausted, not from the argument, but some decades of being small so others could be comfortable. And in that suffocating moment, something inside me whispered, "Enough. Absolutely enough." I wiped my tears, let my hands fall to my sides, and took a slow breath that surprised even me with how steady it was. "My answer," I began. All three of them leaned in. I could feel the room tighten like it was holding its breath. "Is no." Amelia froze like someone had unplugged her emotions. Mom's jaw dropped. Dad blinked rapidly. And before anyone could recover, I added, "And if you're really raising my rent because I won't be free childcare, then I'll be moving out." The silence that followed was suffocating, but beneath it, I felt something powerful rising inside me, something I hadn't felt in years. Myself. Amelia scoffed. "You're bluffing." Mom hissed, "Don't be stupid, Alexandra." Dad muttered, "Where will you even go?" I stared at them, feeling the cliff of my life shift beneath me. I didn't know where I'd go. I didn't know how I'd afford it. I didn't know what tomorrow would look like. But I knew one thing. Living under their roof meant dying slowly. "I'll figure it out," I said, and I meant it. But just as I turned to walk away, Amelia said something so outrageous, so absurd, so cruel, it stopped me dead in my tracks. Something that changed everything again. "Well then," she said, crossing her arms, "I guess it's time you know the real reason Mom and Dad want you to help me." I turned slowly. "What are you talking about?" Amelia grinned, cold, victorious, almost excited. "Because," she said, tilting her head, "they've been hiding something from you for months." My heart dropped. "Hiding what?" And she smiled wider. "About your job and what Mom did behind your back." When Amelia said those words, "about your job and what Mom did behind your back," my brain seemed to stop working for a second. It was like the room shrank around me, like the air thickened into something I had to fight to breathe through. I stared at her, studying her expression, that smug triumph simmering beneath her fake concern. She knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted the power. She wanted the moment. She wanted me to beg her to explain. And for a split second, I almost did. But instead, I forced my voice to stay steady as I said, "What did Mom do?" My mother straightened defensively like a child caught stealing cookies. "Amelia, that's not your place." "Oh, please," Amelia cut her off. "She deserves to know." Then she turned back to me, raising her eyebrows like she was about to deliver breaking news on national TV. "Remember when you applied for that promotion, the one you were really excited about?" My stomach tightened instantly. I nodded very slowly. She continued, "Well, Mom told Mr. Carmichael, the owner's cousin, the one you always complain about, that you wouldn't be able to take on the extra responsibility because you were needed at home." For a moment, I genuinely didn't understand the words. "What?" I whispered. "She what?" Amelia's smile widened, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who enjoyed watching another person bleed emotionally. You know how she sometimes bumps into him at the grocery store, right? Apparently, they talked, a lot more than you realized. I turned to Mom, feeling my heartbeat thudding against my ribs. "Mom, tell me she's lying." Mom sighed, not regretfully, annoyedly. "Alexandra, you were already overwhelmed. You had just moved back in. You were struggling. That job required long hours. You wouldn't have been able to help Amelia. It wasn't the right time for you." I felt my knees weaken. "You told my employer I wasn't available? You told them I couldn't handle the promotion? It's not like you would have gotten it anyway," Amelia muttered under her breath. That was the blow that almost sent me to the floor. Not because she said it, because Mom didn't disagree. She didn't even flinch. She just stood there, expression stiff, arms crossed like she was somehow justified. "You cost me that promotion," I said slowly, my voice trembling with a mixture of heartbreak and fury. "You cost me that raise. You cost me the chance to get ahead, to move out, to have something of my own." Mom didn't even blink. "I protected you from taking on more than you could handle." And the worst part? She believed it. She truly believed she had the right to interfere in my adult life, in my career, in my future. Dad rubbed his face and muttered, "It's done now. No point arguing." That was when the temperature in my body changed. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was something sharper, something cleaner, like the moment a trembling hand finally steadies. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked quietly. Amelia shrugged. "Because I didn't want you to quit your job. We needed you around." "We?" I repeated. "Or you?" Her eyes flashed with irritation. "Same thing." It wasn't. And for the first time, I saw it clearly. Amelia didn't see me as a sister. She saw me as labor, My parents didn't see me as an adult. They saw me as a resource, and they all assumed I would keep bending until I broke entirely. Mom stepped forward like she was trying to regain control of the conversation. Alexandra, your job isn't everything. Family comes first, and we need you. This is what families do. I shook my head slowly. No, this is what users do. Mom gasped like I had slapped her. How dare you? No, I said again, louder this time. How dare you? You sabotaged my career because Amelia needed help? You didn't even tell me. You didn't even ask me. You just decided my life for me. Dad stepped in then, voice raised slightly. Alex, calm down. I am calm, I said through clenched teeth, calmer than I should be. Mom's voice sharpened into a tone I knew too well. If you feel so unappreciated, then maybe you should start contributing more instead of making everything about yourself. Something inside me snapped again, this time not quietly. I took a step back, staring at all three of them, realizing in real time just how deeply I had allowed myself to settle for scraps. I had lived my entire life believing that if I just did enough, gave enough, proved myself enough, they would see me, appreciate me, love me. But they didn't want my happiness. They wanted my convenience. I'm moving out, I repeated. Mom laughed, a short, humorless, disbelieving laugh. You can't afford that. Her certainty was a slap. Watch me, I whispered. I reached for my backpack, the same one still hanging loosely on my shoulder. But as I turned toward the hallway, my dad said something that made me freeze mid-step. If you walk out now, Alexandra, don't expect to walk back in. The audacity of it, the cruelty, the sudden shift from manipulation to outright abandonment. I turned slowly. Are you serious? Mom didn't hesitate. If you leave in anger, that's on you. We won't be guilt-tripped later. Amelia folded her arms smugly. You're acting like a child. Be mature for once. Mature. The word floated in the air like smoke. Mature? I repeated. You want to talk about maturity. You, Amelia, let Mom sabotage my job so I'd be forced to stay here and help you. It wasn't sabotage, Mom snapped. It was guidance. It was control, I said. Dad stepped toward me. You should be grateful you even have a roof over your head. That was it. The line. The one that finally burned the last strand connecting me to the version of myself who tolerated everything. I straightened my spine, wiped my face with the back of my hand, and said, I'll be out by the end of the week. Amelia's mouth fell open. Mom shook her head like I was being ridiculous. Dad muttered something under his breath, but I didn't listen. Because for the first time in my life, my thoughts were louder than their expectations. I went to my room, slammed the door quietly, not out of rage, but out of exhaustion. The familiar four walls felt smaller. The posters felt childish. The dresser felt foreign. This wasn't my room. This wasn't my home. It was a holding cell decorated to look comforting. I sat on my bed, letting my breath steady, feeling tears drip onto my hands. Not weak tears, cleansing ones, angry ones, ones that meant something. After a few minutes, my phone buzzed. A text from Amelia. You're overreacting. Grow up. You're making things harder for everyone. Then another. You should apologize. The third message came seconds later. Mom and Dad are really upset. You should come talk. I didn't respond. Instead, I scrolled through my contacts and clicked on the one person I trusted, my friend Leah. She picked up immediately. Hey, Alex, what's up? The minute I heard her voice, something inside me trembled. Can I stay with you for a few days? She didn't even hesitate. Yes, absolutely. Are you okay? My voice cracked. No. I'm on my way, she said. Pack a bag. That simple sentence nearly broke me because it reminded me of something my family had never given me, unconditional support. I started packing, grabbing essentials, stuffing clothes into my duffel bag. With each item I folded, the truth grew clearer. I wasn't just leaving a house, I was leaving a system that needed me small. When I'd almost finished packing, I noticed something out of place on my nightstand, a printed envelope tucked halfway under a book. It wasn't mine. My name was on the front in my mother's handwriting. I frowned, swallowed hard, and opened it. Inside was a letter addressed to my employer, a letter I had never seen before, a letter written by my mother. And as I began reading the first few lines, my hands started to shake violently, because what she wrote wasn't just interference, it was a lie, a damaging, reputation-shattering lie. To whom it may concern, it began, I'm writing regarding my daughter Alexandra Hayes. I'm not sure she told you, but she has been struggling emotionally and may not be stable enough for higher responsibility at this time. My heart nearly stopped. She told them I was unstable, mentally unstable, a danger to myself. It continued. We're doing our best to support her, but she has been unpredictable and needs to avoid stressful work until she's in a better place emotionally. I sank onto the bed, the letter trembling in my hands. She lied to my workplace. She lied about my mental health. She painted me as a liability, a risk, a burden. I felt sick, betrayed, violated, all at once. And the final line was the one that delivered the killing blow. Please consider other candidates for the promotion at this time. We appreciate your understanding. They didn't even give me a chance. I folded the letter, barely able to breathe. My mother, the woman who raised me, destroyed a major opportunity in my life and justified it with a lie that could haunt me for years. A knock on my door jolted me. Alex, dinner is ready, Mom called sweetly, like nothing had happened. Rage flooded my chest, not the explosive kind, the cold, silent kind, the kind that rewrites a person. I stood up, gripping the letter. I opened the door slowly. Mom smiled. Come eat, sweetheart. Let's talk calmly. I stared at her with a stillness that made her smile falter. Then I held up the letter. What? I said in a quiet, shaking voice. Is this? Her face drained of color. How did you? Alex, wait! But I didn't let her finish. I stepped forward, holding the letter between us like evidence in a trial. You lied about me. You lied to my job. You told them I was unstable. You sabotaged me. She opened her mouth, but no excuse in the world was big enough to cover the truth. And as she stammered, as Dad and Amelia appeared behind her in the hallway, confused and irritated, I realized something chilling. They didn't just want to control me. They were willing to ruin me to keep me here. And that was when I knew I couldn't stay another second. But just as I grabbed my bag and headed for the front door, something happened. Something none of us expected. Something that stopped me cold. My phone lit up with a new message from an unknown number, and the first line read, Alexandra, you don't know me, but I know what your mother did, and you need to hear the whole truth. The message on my phone glowed like a warning flare in the dark hallway. Alexandra, you don't know me, but I know what your mother did, and you need to hear the whole truth. For a moment, the world around me went silent. My mother stood frozen, her lips parted in a half-formed excuse. My father squinted at the phone like he could somehow read the message from across the room. Amelia rolled her eyes dramatically, but I barely registered any of it. My entire focus tunneled into that single text. My hands felt cold, almost numb, as I tightened my grip around the phone. Who was that? Mom demanded, voice sharp with panic she was trying and failing to hide. That panic confirmed something. Whoever sent this message wasn't wrong. Someone out there knew something my mother never intended for me to find out. But instead of answering her, I turned the phone so only I could see the screen. My voice came out low but steady. I'll be right back. Amelia scoffed. Seriously? You're running from a conversation again? I didn't bother replying. I walked past them, grabbed my jacket, and stepped out onto the porch before any of them could stop me. The cold air hit me sharply. grounding me in the moment. Darkness wrapped around the neighborhood, quiet except for the occasional passing car and the distant bark of a dog. I needed space. I needed to breathe. I needed to think. And most importantly, I needed to know who had texted me. My thumb hovered over the message. Then I typed, "Who is this?" The reply came instantly, as if the person had been waiting with their fingers poised above their phone. "My name is Mara. I used to work with your mom, and I know what she did to your last apartment." My eyebrows tightened. My last apartment? I frowned, confusion washing over me. What about my apartment? A pause, then, "You didn't break your lease. She forced you out." My entire body went still. Forced me out? I stared at the message, the words spinning in my mind like loose shards of glass. My lease hadn't been terminated for non-payment. My mom and dad helped me cover rent whenever I fell behind. But the landlord had insisted the building was being renovated. That's why I'd moved back home. That was why I had to take the room upstairs again. But now, "What did she do?" I typed. "What are you talking about?" Another message arrived. "Not safe to text. Meet me. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Riverside Coffee." Then another. "Don't tell your mother I contacted you." And finally, "She'll try to stop you." A chill ran through me, not because I thought I was in danger, but because the message made sense. Too much sense. Because my mother always had a way of knowing things she shouldn't. Things she claimed came up in conversation, or someone mentioned at church, or a neighbor told her. Too many coincidences. Too many times she inserted herself where she didn't belong. And suddenly, my last apartment was back in my mind like a door I thought was closed. The unexpected lease termination, the landlord's discomfort, my mother's forced smile when she told me, "Maybe this is a sign you should come home." I took a shaky breath, staring at the dark sky. Someone out there knew something. Someone who wasn't my family. Someone who thought I deserved the truth. For a moment, I wondered if this was a trap. But then again, why would a stranger text me, warning me about my own mother? And why did her tone feel so urgent, so informed? My phone buzzed again, this time from Leah, my friend. "I'm downstairs." Perfect timing. I walked to the curb where her car idled under the street lamp. The passenger window rolled down and she leaned out slightly. "You okay?" I shook my head slowly and slid into the seat. She studied me for a moment before pulling away from the house. "What happened?" I didn't speak until we were several blocks away. "Someone texted me," I said softly. "A woman named Mara. Do you know her?" "No." "What did she say?" I hesitated. "She says she knows what my mom did. Not just," my voice cracked, "not just with my job, with my old apartment." Leah's eyebrows rose slightly, but she didn't look surprised. That almost hurt. "Alex, are you really that shocked?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" She sighed. "Your mom has always been controlling. She doesn't let go of anything. I always suspected she had something to do with you moving back home." "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because you always defended her," Leah said gently, "and I didn't want to push you." I leaned my head against the window, watching the streetlights blur by. "She lied about my mental health to my job." Leah's hand froze on the steering wheel. "She what?" "She wrote a letter," I said, my chest tightening. "I found it. She told them I was unstable, that I wasn't fit for a promotion." Leah exhaled slowly, her jaw tightening. "Alex, that's not controlling. That's abuse." The word hit me like cold water. Abuse. I had never framed it like that, not once, because she was my mother, and children of controlling parents always rewrite the narrative to survive. "We're going to my place," Leah said firmly. "We'll talk more there." Her apartment was small, cozy, warm. Everything my parents' house wasn't. She handed me tea, wrapped me in a blanket, and sat across from me like she was preparing for impact. "Start from the beginning," she said. And I did. I told her everything about the rent threat, the nanny ultimatum, the emotional manipulation, the letter, the mysterious text. She listened, face shifting from anger to disbelief to a deep, quiet sadness. When I finished, she leaned forward. Alex, your mother is trying to trap you. She always has. Something inside me twisted painfully. Why? Leah didn't hesitate. Because controlling people don't respect independence. They fear it. Independence, something I'd always craved but never really tasted. I rubbed my eyes, exhaustion weighing heavy on my shoulders. She said if I leave, I shouldn't come back. Good, Leah said bluntly. You shouldn't. I looked up sharply. Leah, Alex, you are 32 years old. You deserve a life that doesn't revolve around your sister's kids or your mother's expectations. You deserve your own home, your own choices, your own freedom. They want you there because you make their lives easier. And there it was, the truth I had buried under years of guilt and loyalty, the truth I was finally ready to hear. I stayed the night at Leah's, though sleep barely touched me. My mind churned through every memory, every flashback, every moment that suddenly made sense in a new, unsettling light. By morning, I felt hollow and strangely clear. I wasn't going back. Not for anything. Not anymore. The next day moved in a blur until it was finally time to meet the mysterious woman. 3 p.m., Riverside Coffee. My heart thudded in my chest as I walked inside. The cafe was warm, filled with soft chatter and clinking cups. I scanned the room until I spotted a woman in her late 40s sitting near the window, looking at me with a mixture of hesitation and urgency. She stood as I approached. Alexandra? Yes, I said cautiously. You're Mara? She nodded. Thank you for coming. Her eyes were kind, but tired. The kind of tired that comes from carrying secrets too heavy for too long. We sat down. My hands were stiff around my cup. You said you knew my mother. She nodded slowly. For almost 12 years. We worked at the same insurance office. I knew her well. There was a heaviness in her voice, almost a warning. How do you know anything about my apartment? I asked. Mara exhaled, folding her hands together. Because your mother asked me to help her. My breath caught. Help her do what? Mara looked me straight in the eyes. Get you evicted. My stomach dropped. My throat tightened. Everything inside me screamed in disbelief, but the look on her face told me she wasn't lying. My voice cracked. Why? Mara swallowed. Because she didn't want you living on your own. She didn't want you getting too comfortable. She said if you had your own place, you wouldn't be there for the family. My entire world tilted. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. Mara continued softly. She told the landlord you were breaking the lease rules. She fabricated complaints. She even said you had men over late at night disturbing neighbors. I stared at her in horror. That never happened. I know, Mara said gently, but your landlord didn't, and he didn't want trouble. She lied? Yes. I felt something hot and sharp rising in my chest. Anger, betrayal, disbelief, grief. Why are you telling me this now? Mara hesitated. Because I quit last month. I couldn't stand the way she talked about you, always criticizing, always strategizing how to keep you grounded. And when she bragged about making sure you didn't get the promotion at your job, my stomach twisted. She bragged? Mara nodded. She told a coworker, Alexandra won't fly too far. I'll make sure of that. My vision blurred with tears. My voice was barely a whisper. Why does she want to keep me small? Mara looked at me with deep sympathy. Because she needs someone to control, and you were the easiest target. My entire body went cold. I felt like a truth too big to swallow had been shoved into my chest. And then Mara said something that made the room feel like it was spinning. Alexandra, there's more. Something big. I froze. What do you mean? Her face paled. Your mother has been planning something else, something worse, and she's involving Amelia this time. My heartbeat stumbled. What is she planning? Mara took a deep breath. She's trying to make you legally responsible for your sister's kids, full time. My blood ran cold. What? She told her lawyer you agreed. She's preparing documents. They want to make you the guardian for emergencies and temporary custody. I felt the world tilt again, my breath catching in my throat. I know, Mara said firmly. That's why I contacted you. My hands trembled violently as she slid a folded paper across the table. This is a copy of the draft document. I managed to print it before I left the office. I stared at the paper, unable to breathe, unable to think, unable to feel anything except the crushing weight of betrayal. My own family wanted to trap me legally. They wanted to tie me to responsibilities I never agreed to. They wanted my life, even my future, signed away. And the final blow came when I unfolded the document. On the dotted line was my forged signature. I gasped. Mara whispered, "Your mother intends to file it next week." I pressed a hand to my mouth, tears burning my eyes. My mother had crossed a line no parent should ever cross, and now I knew the truth. But I also knew something else. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was war, and I had no idea how far my family was willing to go to keep me under their control. But I was about to find out. I never thought the silence inside my apartment could feel so loud. After the storm at my parents' house, my father's confession, my mother's coldness, Isabella's breakdown, I spent the next morning sitting on my couch, staring at the sun bleeding through the blinds. My hands were wrapped around a mug of tea I wasn't drinking. My heart felt heavy, not from sadness alone, but from the exhaustion of years I didn't realize I had been carrying. For so long, I had thought I was the strong one, the dependable daughter who could take the hits because I was the one who didn't crumble. But strength can become a trap when people mistake it for indestructibility. My parents had been leaning on me so hard, they forgot I could fall. The knock on my door startled me. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a moment, I froze, wondering if I should pretend not to be home. Then I remembered that was the old me, the one who avoided conflict, the one who swallowed pain like it was breakfast. So I stood up, steadying myself, and opened the door. Isabel stood there, her hair tied in a loose bun, eyes puffy from crying. Her whole posture looked deflated, like someone had let the air out of her. She didn't come in immediately, she just stood there, staring at me like she wasn't sure she had the right to be there. "Alex?" Her voice cracked, and her lower lip trembled. She looked so fragile, so unlike the confident, take-charge mother everyone believed she was. "Can I talk to you?" I hesitated only long enough to check if I was emotionally prepared. I wasn't, but sometimes situations don't wait for readiness. I stepped aside, and she entered quietly, sitting on the edge of my couch like she expected it to reject her. "I know I don't deserve to be here," she started, wringing her hands. "But I need to apologize." I didn't say anything. I wanted her to speak without me cushioning her words or guiding the conversation. She took a shaky breath. "I treated you horribly. I used you. I let Mom and Dad use you. I let everyone believe you were the one being selfish when I was the one depending on you more than anyone." Her voice cracked again. "And it wasn't just the kids or the help. I wanted your life, Alex. I was jealous of you." I blinked. Of all the things I expected her to say, jealousy wasn't one of them. She laughed bitterly. "You always had freedom, independence. Even when things were hard for you, you still lived your own life. Meanwhile, I was drowning in responsibility, bills, kids, expectations. I thought you were stupid for choosing a life without a family, but the truth is, I resented that you had the freedom to choose." Her confession stunned me into stillness. "But instead of dealing with my own feelings," she continued, looking down at her hands, "I punished you for them. I let Mom use you as a crutch. I let her talk down to you. I thought if I let her take advantage of you instead of me, I could finally breathe." She sucked in a breath and whispered, "I'm sorry, Alex. I really am." For a long moment, all I heard was the hum of the refrigerator. I searched her face for that familiar entitlement, the subtle defensiveness, the invisible wall she always kept up, but it wasn't there. She looked broken in a way that wasn't manipulative. This wasn't an attempt to pull me back in. This was the version of her I had never seen, the one behind the armor. "So, where do we go from here?" she asked, voice trembling. I didn't answer immediately. I let myself feel everything: anger, relief, grief, love, loss. When I finally spoke, my voice was softer than I expected. "I accept your apology," I said slowly, "but I need space, real space, not a week or a month. I need time to figure out who I am without everyone pulling at me." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she nodded. "I understand." And for once, I believed she did. She stood up, walked to the door, and paused. "I hope one day we can rebuild something, even if it's small." "Maybe," I whispered. She left without another word. After she was gone, I felt something unfamiliar. Peace, or at least the beginning of it. 2 days later, I received a text from my father asking if he could meet with me privately. I agreed, but only at a cafe downtown, not at the family house. When I arrived, he was already waiting, his posture stiff, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. "Alex," he said gently as I sat, "I won't take much of your time. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." He swallowed hard, looking down at his coffee. "I supported your mother even when she was wrong. I forced you into a role that wasn't yours. I let you take on burdens you shouldn't have carried." His voice dropped. I was scared to stand up to her. I still am sometimes. That honesty, raw and uncomfortable, hit harder than I expected. "But I want you to know something," he said, meeting my eyes. "I'm proud of you, of the woman you became, your strength, your independence, your courage to finally say enough. I wish I had protected you better." My throat tightened, emotions burning behind my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. He nodded, exhaling shakily. "If you ever want to rebuild a relationship with me, I'd like that, on your terms." When we parted ways, I felt another weight slide off my chest, one I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. For the next few weeks, I focused on myself for the first time in years. I picked up extra shifts, but without resentment. I bought groceries without budgeting down to the penny. I even took a short weekend trip, alone, and discovered I liked my own company far more than I ever knew. I attended therapy, where I learned that boundaries are not walls, they're doors that only open when I choose. I learned that love is not proven through sacrifice alone. And I learned that my worth wasn't measured by how much I could endure. One afternoon, while sitting on a park bench watching the sunset smear orange across the sky, I realized something profound. My parents had treated me like a safety net because I had never shown them the strength of my spine. Once I stood tall, everything changed, not just around me, but within me. A month later, my mother reached out, not with demands, not with guilt, not even with excuses, just a simple message: "If you're ever ready to talk, I'm here." It wasn't perfect, it didn't erase the pain, but it was a beginning, imperfect and fragile. I didn't reply, not yet, but I didn't delete the message either. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a slow, steady rewiring of the heart. As for Isabel, she continued therapy and even invited me to one of her sessions, not to force reconciliation, but to take accountability. And one quiet Sunday morning, she sent a picture of the kids drawing a "We Love Auntie Alex" card. I smiled, not with obligation, but with genuine warmth. I wasn't ready to jump back into the center of their world, but maybe I didn't have to shut the door forever either. The biggest change, though, happened inside me. I learned to enjoy saying no. I learned to protect my time like it was gold. I learned that guilt is not the same as responsibility. And I learned that choosing myself wasn't selfish, it was survival. The last time I visited the park where I had watched the sunset weeks earlier, I whispered to myself, "You made it." And for the first time in years, I believed it. Life didn't magically become perfect. My family didn't suddenly heal overnight, but I finally understood that my story didn't end with their betrayal. It began with my refusal to keep carrying it. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that forced you to choose yourself over your family? Share your story in the comments. I'm listening.